Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and in a mention, she's funny too. Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. I hope this is going right. This is literally the first podcast I taped since June, like June or July. So I think the equipment looks like it's working. Thank God it's with my friend Ryan, and because that makes it even easier. Because Ryan, you are like one of the easiest, best, most interesting guests. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me back. I look forward to this every 6 months that we do this. I really do. I think about it in between these 6 month points. I'm like, what am I going to talk about next time?
Oh, good. Well, everyone loves you. And also, folks, the Patreon. I'm really building the Patreon, and there's a couple of things. First of all, if you are a reader and you are having trouble finding clients or to try out new stuff on, or if you're a successful reader and you want to switch to mediumship or whatever, my Patreon, I promise, once a month we do a open reading where you come in and read for other readers. We just did it last night, and you get to practice in a safe spot. We give you a bunch of people. You can do whatever you want. So that's the big thing. And then if you're not into that, I have a $5 level where you can get 2 extra Paranormal Karen episodes, which are just me. And I'm trying, Ryan, we were talking about moving. I'm trying to build up that Patreon so when I'm done in Utica, I can just drive around the country and make money doing my Patreon and make funny videos. And that's the plan today.
That sounds beautiful.
It does, doesn't it? I don't know if I'm quite that feral that I could do it. No vans. I'm talking hotels because I can't.
Yeah.
The bathrooms on the van life, it doesn't look good. But all right, my friend. First of all, how are you doing? I downloaded and I love your business astrology calendar.
Oh my God.
It is so good, and it comes up on the daily thing, which is exactly where I need it, because every day I have to look at what I have scheduled for readings and this and that, and there it is, Mercury pre-retrograde, moon void, this is a good day to focus on. Tell everyone what I'm talking about.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for the plug. Number one, I have like a little surprise too. I was planning on doing this all the way at the end. But yes. So I started this new business called Bismos CEO, like business cosmos, and CEO stands for Cosmic Energy Oracle. It really is a business astrology calendar because I find myself often meeting with people who run their own business or solopreneurs, freelancers. And I partnered with this guy that I actually met through TikTok, weirdly. And he runs his own creative marketing agency. And he also works a lot with solopreneurs. And we started doing lives together because he used to work for an astrologer.
Oh.
And we started doing lives together on TikTok, and he uses astrology in his business. Like he'll plan around Mercury retrogrades and all that. And so someone ended up asking, like, hear me out. Like, you guys should start a business astrology calendar. And we just decided, okay, let's do this. So we've been working on it all year, just officially hard launched it November, and it's going really well. If you can go to bismosceo.com, Bismos is spelled BIZMOS, and then CEO. And it's really interesting because if you get it, it's super affordable. It's like $89. Although that said, I have a discount code for you.
I thought you said $80 million. And I was like,
oh God, no. No. Okay. No. It's $89. And basically like I went through personally all of 2024 and into 2025 actually, and we're going to just keep updating it so it's always at least a year ahead of schedule. So anytime you purchase this, you'll get sent a calendar file that you can just add to your phone calendar, computer calendar, and it funnels in all of these different astrology transits that I have handwritten descriptions for. And it's really in depth because I'll explain like what the transit is, but specifically in a business lens. And I have especially like in 2024, like if you're looking at it right now, you're seeing like some of my older 2023 stuff when I was still experimenting with it. But in 2024, I go into like the industries that are impacted by a certain transit, like what kind of do's and don'ts you should be focusing on, like the different elements of your business. Like, is the day for social media? Is the day for, connecting with new clients or promoting yourself or updating your website or anything like that? And it's so freaking helpful, but it's way beyond that too. Like as we were growing it, we kind of just turned it into this whole like brand on its own. So I'm hosting free workshops for everybody who's got the calendar all year long. We've got 4 planned once a quarter, that kind of like quarterly updates, play like quarterly reports. And I'll probably do even more than that. And I normally am going to charge like $25 for people to join that. So it's like, if you join my workshops, you're spending more than the calendar. So you might as well just get the calendar and then do the workshops for free. Yes. And we've got like a text message service we're updating, where like people can opt into. So I can literally send you text messages. That's not up yet, but it's like we're putting it in right now. And so then I can, text you and be like, hey, Mercury retrogrades in 3 days. Like, are you ready? Here are the things that you should do to prepare. It's so much to it. So if anybody's interested, I did create a discount code specifically for your listeners. So it's Paranormal 30.
Paranormal 30.
If anybody wants it. Paranormal 30.
Because 30 is my age.
Exactly.
And also, Ryan's Astrology is your website, correct?
Yeah, you can find it through there too.
Okay. The only reason I put that out there is because in case someone is driving or because I screwed up a whole bunch of my podcasts this year. So I was like, I hope the show notes get in right. But Ryan's Astrology is where everything is. And I love this, Ryan. In fact, it's funny because, if there's a quick jump there, I did not edit. I'm getting very like, I don't want to edit my podcast because I don't want to edit people. But you hear the edits because someone came to the door. So I had to jump up and answer the door. So I'm not sure where we were talking about your calendar. Okay. That is great. Paranormal 30 and Ryan's Astrology. Oh my God. And now, Ryan, this is the first week of 2024 that this is coming out. Holy bananas. What? Yeah. Please tell me that 2024 is going to be better.
I think so. It's different. I mean, it's just a fundamentally different time. We are entering a kind of like 3-year period, actually. I'd say November or 2024 until 2026 is just a big new wave, but a lot of shifts happening in 2024. And I'm really excited about it. I think that it's just a clear departure from the last few years that we've been really trudging through the mud, I feel like. And so we're finding new ways forward in many instances. I think, I hosted this like 2024 workshop a while back, and I still can't get off of like the main theme that I came up with for that, which is, it's kind of cliche sounding, but it's actually got like, I think, cool double meaning, which is imagination in transformation. And I know that's a little bizarre, but it's like, I think like meaning one is how important it is to be imaginative in times of transformation. Because we are transforming a lot, especially the first half of 2024. Tons of new energy coming in, big shifts. And I think times of transformation and departure from what we've known bring this element of uncertainty to it. And we can often become really submissive to fate rather than active participants in it. And when we don't know where we're going, the power of imagination, I think, really comes into play in a really cool way. And so there's this need to like stretch your mind toward all possibilities and experiment and explore. It gives you a sense of control and autonomy when you feel like you're lacking it, So I think that it's just important for people to continue to be imaginative rather than like passive. It is an active role, being imaginative.
Okay, a couple of things that I noticed. These are good things, but I'll tell you, this is the weirdest. Without getting into details, I have never bled as much as I bled in 2023. Like, I never get hurt. I fell down. All kinds of, I fixed a couple of things. I just feel like it was like, it was a health year, yes, but this is because it's funny, because the way you're describing 2024, it sounds like adventurous change, which I like. But I have noticed the power of manifestation when you are absolutely 100% clear on something, like, I want that. It's almost a little scary how accurate it is.
Yeah. No, this is so true. I think that's so true. I've been like really thinking about this too. And especially, so there's this TikTok account I've come across called Niche Manifestations. I've actually become friends with her. She lives here in LA. And she is amazing. She's going viral and she's gotten some really cool news coverage, but she specializes in niche manifestations. So like, oh, you have a shitty landlord and your floorboards are squeaking and they won't fix it. And like, so she'll develop these hilarious, she's a comedian too. So she makes these hilarious like meditations on TikTok for very niche manifestations that people request. And those things, like, she has tons of stories of like them coming true. Like people come back to her and they're like, oh my God, this happened. And so I've been really focusing on that of like, I find it easier to be pure in intent and 100% focused when it is a simpler thing. I think we think of manifestation always as like, I want the love of my life and I need this big new career. And it's like, those are so huge and weighty, and you open yourself to thinking about it in too many different ways that are going to warp that manifestation. But when you're focused on the like finer grained stuff, I think that's when you're going to see how manifestation is really working.
There's another thing about this also, which is like, I was telling a couple of my clients, don't hope yourself out of your job. Hope yourself into a new job, a better job, because you could find yourself out of that job. Like the specific wording lately is really important.
I agree. I totally agree. Especially now, I mean, things are so uncertain at this point. And like, I always kind of idealistically wanted to tell people like, yeah, like get out of that crappy job and you'll land something new. The astrology looks good if you landed something new. But now I'm like, let's be a little practical about this. Like times are very difficult. Maybe like secure the new before you leave the old.
Yes. And also here's the other thing, because we're recording this in 2023. We're still in December, so we're not that far out. But I feel like everything would get halted. You would take 2 steps forward and then something would get thrown in your path. This was my big thing. And I know this other part has been going on for years. If you haven't dealt with it, holy crap, is it in your face? It's just going to be in your face. Like, I have to say it this way, because my father was quite mean. And when he passed, it was like old white men with that were mansplaining were coming out of the woodwork to tell me what to do. It was almost like, okay, you haven't dealt with something here, so they're coming at all angles now. It was very bizarre, and I didn't like it.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's like weird echoes of like
Dad.
What's going on in your life. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Okay. So we still rely on uncertainty, but it sounds like better uncertainty.
Yeah, better uncertainty. And so like this is sort of like the other thing with that imagination and transformation, meaning is like, not just that you need to be imaginative when things are transforming in your life, but that the nature of our imagination itself and how we imagine is also transforming, because a lot of new is coming in next year. And so as uncertain as things are, we are seeing the development in new paths, and that as life itself changes, and like what you literally perceive is changing, that changes the way that you can then imagine. Like your imagination kind of caps off at a certain point just based on what you know and what you're experiencing. But we are going to experience new things next year that will then expand the boundaries of what we believe is possible. And so it's like, I think we just need to push those boundaries to the limits rather than be passive participants next year. I think the only way that we're going to create that future is through imagining it.
So when you say that, you might mean things like being super psychic or being super athletes or curing yourself of disease. Is that the kind of expansion you're talking about? Like the things that we only see in movies, like superpowers? And I don't mean that. I don't mean that facetiously, but you know what I mean. Like,
No, I think that's interesting. I think that could absolutely happen. Like, I've got a really important person in my life who has never really been spiritual, largely atheist, but has been recently really unfolding spiritually. And it's been fascinating. I've never seen somebody go from such an atheist kind of point of view to kind of essentially developing psychic abilities in front of my face. And it's been really cool to see that happen, right? So I definitely think that those sort of expansions can occur. But I also think, like, I want to always take it more mundane and practical too, where it's just like, if you're in an industry that's really behind, why not you be the change maker? Why not you be the one that's imagining a concept to get out of like a really crazy rut? Like, I think about the fact that healthcare institutions are still using fax machines. It's like, somebody develop a HIPAA compliant version of data transfer so that our health institutions can talk to each other a little better, you know?
Right.
I mean, there's just like so much, I think, practically that can also be imagined and then created.
I love that. And so people with ideas, I kind of want to say people with ideas of how to tie things together. You know, maybe there's an opening coming for you. I know. I it's kind of like, I'm kind of fascinated with this. This was not, I was waiting for bad news because 23 was so bad.
There's some, don't get me wrong, there's some, but like, even in those times, it's like, that is really what's important. And why I really wanted to focus on this too, is like, it is in those really difficult periods, like a depression or war or conflict, which we're obviously experiencing with Israel and Palestine. Like, it is the creative and imaginative brains that are forced to change. And that creativity is what inspires people and gets us out of these darker spaces. So it is those artist souls that are going to be able to move things forward. It's not always going to be like that super old school kind of Capricornian, no offense to the Capricorns, and I don't mean it that way, just the Capricornian point of view, which is, this is the way things have always been done. There's a really big theme actually that also, I guess this could be like a second theme, and I forget who said this quote, but it's tradition is the corpse of wisdom. And I think that is so profound, because it's like, we are moving, Pluto is like kind of like the biggest, well, one of the first big theme of 2024 is moving from Capricorn to Aquarius. Capricorn is traditions, old structures and hierarchies. Aquarius is equalization of people and future progress and new ideas. That is the imaginative space that we're moving into. And we can't hold on to things just because that's the way it's been done. It might have worked in the past for sure, but like, those things have changed so fundamentally, and we can't hold on to the corpse of what was wise before, right? Like, it just doesn't work anymore.
I am gonna, before we go to the break, I am gonna sort of reinforce this in a different way from I'm not actually in the movie industry. I'm in the entertainment industry and I'm a comedian, but I believe I'm watching the movies this Christmas. Go look at the cast of the movies. All white men, all men. And I'm like, when is that going to change? I just saw Sharon Stone talking about it. I think I never forget that wonderful meme that was like Barbie and Taylor Swift, and it said 2 women are running the economy. I think that's one of the things that's on its way out, is this old white guy or even just guy thing. I think it's on its way out, and I do it by trying to only watch shows that have even casts or stuff. And I'm going to give a plug for probably one of the funniest comedians ever, named Kitty Flanagan. She has a show on Netflix called Fisk, Fisk. I love her so much. Okay, because even with that, the patriarchy going away, it's dying so slowly, but I hope that's part of what we're going to imagine is equality. So
I think so. And good point. I'll just add to that really quick that the Grammys, which I don't really follow, but it is female dominated. This is a year of women in music. I wasn't really totally overly impressed with the year of music, but it's like all women, you know? So like, that's a huge shift, at least in the music sphere.
You know, and I'm just going to say another thing too. All of a sudden, it's very big, are kind of these weird thriller, horror, Japanese and Korean on Netflix. And like, no one notices it's half male, half female. There is no this is all just a guy's thing. There is no, we don't know how to write for women. And there's no like, look at us, we use women, we're great. It's just looks like what society looks like in some weird movie where you're playing against a giant deck of cards or whatever. But I'm like, are we the last ones? Is America the last ones? But anyways, I'm off my soapbox. Hang on, folks. We will be right back with the bad news. I can't wait. MedicallySpeaking.com is a prophetic shop that focuses on your inner alchemical transmutation. And I needed an alchemical transmutation to say alchemical transmutation. See, Toria, you did it. When you're looking for activations to change your aura, wisdom and insight to heal your past, and alchemy to live your highest vibrancy, you will most certainly enjoy the array of offerings you will find at hermeticcallyspeaking.com. Created through the teaching of the Hermetics, Toria, who's been on my podcast many times, provides personalized guidance that caters a feast specifically from the higher realms to you. You'll leave each session feeling empowered and loved, having gained ancient knowledge for your soul's nourishment and growth. Believe me, I know. I've worked with Toria and she is terrific. Everything you need is within you. So come remember, activate, and expand your knowing at hermeticcallyspeaking.com. Okay, I was just joking. You don't have to start with bad news, but this, I love this imagination thing. And everyone write that down because I think you're right. We can change from where we are without having to, I'll throw this one last thing in. I'm too talkative and everybody wants to hear you, not me. My friend Lamont always says how the reason, like when you call a business and they can't fix it or you don't get a person, is because everyone, especially in middle management, is terrified they're going to lose their job. So no one does anything. No one makes that extra step. No one wants to get yelled at. No one wants to get fired. I think that is going to change where it won't be like so afraid to do anything, and hopefully people will start to do that more and start to help out, and we'll get rid of this horrible phone trees that I can't stand. But all right, so keep going, Ryan. Keep going. I'll shut up.
No problem. Also, like, it's so funny too. I was just thinking or remembering that right after I had done this workshop where I came up with this theme of imagination and transformation, I saw this post from one of my really good, like my favorite actress, who's Britt Marling. She created the show The OA that was on Netflix. And now she's got a new show called Murder at the End of the World on Hulu. And anyway, there was this she posted this thing just out of nowhere that was like a screenshot, I think of like New York Times or something. And it literally said, transformative leaps in science rely as much on imagination as they do on data and logic. Isn't that nuts?
That's great.
And then I went and read this article and it was literally just all about that. Yeah, like that like the movement of even science forward requires a leap of creative faith. And I was like, this is literally like the theme.
Wow. And all that, yeah. And I think a really good scientist is channeling anyways. They're being led by something else, but we won't force them.
Yeah, their points of view are even changing. I feel like they're when they didn't know what they don't know, they used to just shut down almost like in that sort of atheist perspective. And now I think they're very open to the intrigue of that mystery, and I think that's spiritual in and of itself.
Yes.
They're open to that.
Yes. All right, Ryan. So we got imagination is your word of the year. All right. So what else is coming?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to totally echo everything, but if people go back to the 2023 one we did last year, I talked about Pluto moving into Aquarius because it did very briefly in 2023 from March to June, but on January 20th. It's moving back into Aquarius. It's been in Capricorn ever since June, kind of finishing up its time there. And really, it's essentially January 20th going to be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. Fundamental change. I don't want to reiterate too much of what I said before. There's one little time period, which is fairly symbolic, I think more on a collective level, from September to November, of 2024, where Pluto will dip back into Capricorn one final freaking time. And I'm like, God damn it. But that's it. That's it. Otherwise, we're Pluto in Aquarius, and that is huge because Aquarius is we the people, you know? And so Pluto is causing this big transformation. It's planned of death and rebirth, transformation of the collective power and like kind of transfer of power from Capricorn to Aquarius, where Capricorn is the like hierarchy structures, the people at the top with all the power. And now that transfer of power, Pluto moving into Aquarius, is like power to the people. So very excited about that. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, it was 250 years ago. And we had the American Revolution, French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, like society fundamentally shifted. And those are big, big times in history that we still teach in schools, correctly or not, I don't know, but we still teach them. Because they just fundamentally changed the way that we live. So we can expect these next 20 years to be like drastically different than anything we've known.
Oh, that makes me happy. I have a room full of dried beans and sprouting jars, so I'll be able to eat. But that's what I feel like I've been waiting for. It's interesting that it starts January 20th. Do you think there will be certain like information passed on, or because I kind of feel like the Israel-Palestine thing was the tipping point in a way that the world gets involved. Nobody sits out on that one.
Such a good point. I agree. And I think it's interesting because Pluto has been in Capricorn since at the very end of Capricorn, which is where America has its natal Pluto. So we're still wrapping up that America's like Pluto return theme that's been huge the past few years. And I know we talked about this in previous episodes where I said like that America's going to have a fall from grace. Like we were this world power, and now like the rest of the world's not looking at us like we're anything special.
Right.
And as this Israeli-Palestinian war has escalated here, it's been wild to see reactions of people in other countries toward Americans because of how ignorant we've been regarding this issue. When then in many ways, I would not put us at fault because it is like a more institutional problem, like educationally, politically. But we are realizing now, right? We're waking up. It is that precipice, I think, that basically like what you were saying. And so I think we are getting a little humbled on a global stage as Pluto ends the U.S. Pluto return is ending now. But as it moves into Aquarius, we're going to kind of feel like, you know, we are no better than any other country, and I don't think that's a problem.
No, and you know,
okay.
I get, you know, this is such a touchy one because I get where people are like, we're the greatest country in the world. We have the greatest ideas in the world, but we are the police of the world when you see how many things we have out there. And also, I hate to say this, but the news is finally reporting it, but we lost the Ukraine war. Putin won.
Yeah.
I know that's weird, and you can send me bad emails if you want, but they're starting to that was a money exchange is all that was, and Putin won, and they weren't expecting the ruble to get stronger, which it did. He got stronger, but now it's like it's done. They didn't get to be a part of NATO. It's all over. So I think that is a little bit of like, hey, America, why'd you put all that money in there? Or why did you lie and say they were winning and waste all those lives when they weren't? It's crazy. I don't know. So you can send me mad emails. I read all my emails, so you can be mad. So, all right. So on the world stage, we are going to have a revolution here within the United States, or the beginning of one.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that will look so different now because the world has changed so fundamentally. Like there's the internet revolution now, all of a sudden digital AI revolution, you know? I think it's really interesting that I need to look up like the specific astrology of this, especially when they open, but in Bolingbrook, Illinois, I saw that McDonald's, with this very Capricornian, hierarchy in the food chain here, they're opening a new like restaurant concept that they're going to start rolling out. That's called Cosmics. Go figure. Cosmic. Like, why is it astrological? I mean, it's not. It's just cosmic in focus, but it's Cosmics, right? And the whole. I mean, they haven't opened yet, but it looks like they're really about to. And they basically, the whole thing is just drive-throughs, and it looks like that it's pretty much replacing people, and it's like machines making your drinks and making your food. It's just machines pumping out everything real quick to your drive-through window or whatever. And I think that that's really interesting, and there's going to be that sort of revolution as well of like, you know, I know that people have talked about it and envisioned it for a long time, but I mean, that's literally being built by one of the largest fast food companies on planet Earth.
Right.
Robots are taking over.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, because on the one hand, I'm like, this is what's driving people apart. This is why people are lonely. This is why nobody's sitting in a restaurant, nobody's talking to each other. But on the other hand, I think, well, then maybe nobody has to have that job, and we can have more scientists and artists and stuff if we have that revolution where we can open up everything to people, but instead of trying to keep the poor.
I think it's a really interesting idea that you're bringing up. I'm not an expert in this by any means, but I think like a lot of that will then depend on, well, how does that money get allocated? If there aren't employees at that store now doing this labor, then the money that the consumers are spending, where does it go? It cannot go straight to the top anymore. Like how can we create a more equitable system then of divvying up that money? If robots are going to replace us, how can we then use that money to support people?
We need to pass a tax on AI and make it given to Social Security.
Right. I know. Yeah. It's like, come on. They're obviously, they got no use for that money. A robot? What?
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting concept. I do think war in general will be a theme because this is a full year of the North Node, South Node situation. North Node being in Aries, South Node being in Libra. I have talked about this in like previous podcasts with you as well. I think the last two, because it was a big theme. But I kind of want to shift it a little bit because I talked so relationally about it before. And that is true. It's the relationship axis, Aries, Libra. And North Node is what we're moving into kind of collectively and personally. South Node is what we're kind of learning to release or let go of. And that's Libra, which is relationship. Aries is me, like the individuation. But it's also Aries is war, Libra is peace. So there's this movement into the concept of war and being a warrior, and then this release or letting go of the concept of peace. And that's happening right now. So, I mean, in a very unfortunate way, I think. There's not, on a collective end, like what's going to happen is going to happen. These are the nodes of fate. These are the eclipse points. And it's active until January 2025, so the whole year. And I think the only thing I could say is Aries is inherently about the individual. So even though this will play out collectively, a collective is nothing but a bunch of individuals. That's it. And Aquarius knows this very firmly. It rules the group, but also the individual at the same time. So Aries being just the sign of the individual, there's this big need to like keep the group in mind for sure and keep this idea of collaboration and teamwork in mind. But working on being the best version of yourself that you could be, because that's going to move a collective forward. Like instead of thinking of it like war, how do I go to war for something and how do I pick my battles necessarily? Think of it in like the highest concept of Aries, which is bravery. How can you bravely be yourself? Which in my mind is about developing the self to its fullest possible extent, knowing that fullness doesn't really exist, right? That's the idea of perfection. So you're full and changing at the same time. And it's okay to allow yourself to present fully in front of other people. And that's brave to just be the self entirely.
Authentic.
But then to also, yes. So yes, that is Aries, authenticity. And it's also brave to know that like as full as you have been, you maybe aren't full at certain points and you need to like fill up more, change the self. It's okay to change the self and it's okay to let other people change you too, so that you continue evolving and being this fuller version of the self. And I think that's the best thing. And relationship does matter a whole lot. This entire year, I'm already seeing it. Like I'm feeling it in my personal life in the craziest freaking ways. I've had nutty relationship stuff playing out. And like I'm seeing it kind of flip-flop almost, like where people have been like very adamant about being single and they don't need anybody and they just like want to like, then that's it. Now I'm really seeing those people shift, and all of a sudden I'm literally having conversations. I had one a couple days ago even with someone who was all of a sudden like, I really just want a partner. Like I really want to be with someone, and vice versa. Couples that have been together for a very long time are now realizing that maybe is not what they need, and they're kind of now learning to individuate and develop the self. So there's this like, I don't know, like what you think you know of relationship right now can fundamentally change like over this year. It doesn't mean that your relationship, if you're in one, needs to end or whatever, but it will change. Like people are, I think it's the concept that I've really looked at with this is relationship anarchy, which is just where we're looking at what we've learned, the patterns that have been ingrained in us regarding how to relate, how to interact with other people in any capacity. And because we're stepping into this more autonomous, independent, authentic version of the self, we're developing better boundaries. We're telling people better who we are as individuals, which allows people to relate with us in more authentic ways. And we're going to attract the people that are going to be able to handle us in better ways, you know? So if you haven't been showing up as yourself, then a lot of your relationships might be changing over this next year.
Yes. And I have been saying this because a lot of people that have been married for a long time that are not like, we're going to get a divorce or something. They're like, what's happening? And I try to explain to them, you're going into interdependence, which doesn't mean that your relationship is ending. It means it's shifting out of codependence or even jobs. So this was last week, which would be my New Year's special. These were my picks, Ryan. First of all, I always have one like body part, like it's the nervous system or something. This year is the gut. I picked the gut, like feeling it, or even food doesn't go right that should go right. But my two words that were to watch for this year were intimacy and vulnerability. And not intimacy in a sexual way, but who are you intimate with and who knows you and who are you okay to be vulnerable with, which meaning with no judgment. And I think that sounds like exactly, you're right. It's lining up like authentic self. And also, I just have to say what you said perfectly about war is I have never seen a time where if you ask for peace or you ask for everybody to be safe, let's not kill anyone, you literally get attacked for that. Like, this is not a time for peace. And I'm like, it's all, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't gotten my revenge yet. And I just think that reflects in, I can see it when I get upset about things that aren't happening or in my head, but we have to fix that individual so we can look out and say, yeah, we don't need to kill all these people.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, like I'm in Aquarius rising, and with Pluto moving into Aquarius, I'm feeling very empowered by that. And that's like the rebel, the anarchist at heart. Like, so and I studied protesting in college. I mean, a phrase I kind of really always think about, not that I engage in violence by any means, but is that, well, it's a book title actually called How Nonviolence Protects the State. And at a certain point, pacifism does become the more dangerous option. It's just the truth. So I think like there is a need to like fight back against the systems that are causing much harder damage. And that's like a battle maybe worth picking. And by choosing to fight a certain battle, it's actually bearing way more lives, you know, or you're creating more peace ultimately by being more diligent about those wars you're willing to engage in ultimately. But there is a need to fight. Again, it's like not a passive year in my mind. Like this is a year of being active. A lot will be changing. So there's this maybe desire in us that will feel like I should submit. I should just like see what happens and how this shakes out. But no, because somebody's got to freaking move it forward. Like it's changing no matter what, but we don't know what it looks like. And you can create that change.
And you know what else? There's not well, you know, I think you and I are on the same page all the time about how bad the news is and how they just want you to hate your neighbor. When we stop hating our neighbor and start listening to other sides, I think that's when the literal traditional like news system collapses and they have to stop lying because no one will put up with it. You know, it was funny because the other night I kind of got excited because Sean Hannity was going to have on Gavin Newsom and guy from Florida, right? Two younger guys that are probably going to be running. I was like, let's see what, you know, this is the debate we probably should be listening to. Oh, no. It was just insults and yelling over each other. And I was like, okay, that did nothing. There's no new information that came out of that. So I think this, hopefully, I know in the next 20 years it will, but hopefully our system of getting news from all the same people will collapse. That's what I think.
Let's move into that point then, because it's huge. That's going to be a massive theme next year with Jupiter moving into Gemini on May 25th. It's going to stay in Gemini for over a year, actually, just a little over a year, until about June 2025. And that's huge. Gemini rules the media and information exchange, and perspective, even like our ideas. And the conscious mind, I think more so. And the ways that we kind of connect. I think it's like about connecting the dots and who do you take in information from? How do you make sense of it? Spit it back out to the world, right? Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system. So it expands, magnifies, multiplies, whatever it's touching. So it's really putting a magnifying glass on this Gemini theme of media and information access and what is fake news, what is real news. I think Gemini, it rules more of your local environment, what's immediately accessible to you, versus the opposite sign, which is Sagittarius, which is actually Jupiter's ruler. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And so with Sagittarius, it's more of this globalized perspective, like taking in, media from all far and wide, and just kind of like being influenced by it. But Gemini will be more of that uprising of the local independent journalists, right? And people with their cell phones being just as real of a journalist as the next person, like who's at the New York Times. And we're kind of seeing some of that, interestingly, already, I think, right? With the Israeli-Palestinian war, yet again, where it's like people in Palestine have been trying to get, actual footage out there. And if you see what's actually on the ground there versus what, Fox News or CNN is telling you is happening, and very different stories.
Yes. And let's take a break and come right back. And I'm going to hit on something from that. So hold on, folks. We're back. Hey, everybody. How's that spiritual awakening going? I know. Don't worry. Help is here. HighlySpiritualPerson.com is a haven for spiritual misfits and empaths navigating spirituality and mental health. My friend Camille has a plethora of resources on her site to help you on your spiritual journey, even if you're just starting out. It includes individual and collective Reiki sessions, personalized guided meditations, sleep affirmation tracks, and so much more. Camille has so much to offer. She's going to be on my podcast in December. I can't wait to talk to her. Her blog posts and podcast episodes explore spirituality and are great for folks carving out their own path. She has written 2 easy-to-follow guidebooks, one on breathwork, and the newest book is called Manifestation is Easy, and it features 22 step-by-step manifestation techniques, as well as tips and advice on how to overcome the most common blocks and start changing your reality. Go to highlyspiritualperson.com. I promise you will get lost in how much information is in there. It's one of my favorite rabbit holes. So, and with the news, first of all, they are desperate to get rid of TikTok. They are so desperate to get rid of TikTok. And I think as much as there's crap on TikTok, I think the real story comes through there. And it's so hard with the news now because, I remember the Iraq War, which I protested many, many times, millions of people all over the world, and they just went in. Bush just didn't care. We had no say. That was when I really realized we don't really have a democracy. But I also remember when they were talking about pulling babies out of incubators and throwing them on the floor. And we now know that did not happen. Talk about news upside down, Ryan, and then I'm going to let you go. I know everyone's telling me to shut up. That never happened. Half of the stories that they're telling us never happened. And then here's the other one. Did you see the FBI confirmed Pizzagate was real?
No, I did not. Go figure, though.
So whatever child ring, pedophile ring, which they just arrested the guy, and he was from I think it was from the Obama administration. I'll find. If you're on my Patreon, you'll hear me talk all about this. But I'll send you the article, folks. You can look that up. Pizzagate was real. Remember when that was all a conspiracy? So up is down, down is up. So I am so glad. So the media is there any insight on that? It's just going to kind of fade away, or is it going to explode? What's happening?
No, media warfare, right? So like astrology is overlapping cycles here. So we will see like news outlets even going after each other in bigger ways. We'll see the news like being more sensationalized even. And like the news being the news, I think that's going to be really interesting. Like normally journalists are like, we should never be the news, but it's like, no, you are the news now. Like
Right.
we've like stopped talking about media for too long. Like media literacy even is going to be more important. Like the information you're taking in, like and just like what you were saying, like Pizzagate, where it's like, okay, we heard about it being a conspiracy, and now the FBI, which think about the source. Like I don't know.
Mhm.
Now the FBI is saying no, it was true. So that makes me think of, okay, there's the one side of the story, the other side of the story, and then there's the truth. So it's like,
Right.
okay, now are we getting the other side of the story? Is it the truth?
Is
I
it
don't
somewhere
know.
in the
So
middle?
it's yeah, there's still got to be like some level of like, I don't know, an open-mindedness, which is the benefit of Jupiter here, expansion with Jupiter and Gemini ruling curiosity. People will be more inquisitive. They're going to be more open-minded. Like that's a really beautiful part of this. I mean, we will have advancements in media. Like Gemini rules the phone and phone technologies. So like, yeah, they want to get rid of TikTok, but Jupiter moving into Gemini, that's expanding the abilities that we have with having a phone in our hands. Gemini rules the hands. So like, I don't think that TikTok's going anywhere.
Right.
I think that we're just going to see public discourse and debates increase. I think we will see investments in education. Gemini rules early childhood education, especially. There's going to be more of like a multiculturalism and diversity stance with this. It is a very eclectic energy. So lots of exciting movement and expansion. I think travel and tourism is the one industry where I'm a little hesitant about, because typically this would be really good for travel and tourism, but there's other things going on that kind of, I think, indicate some destruction in that area.
People might be a little afraid to go away or go around. Is that kind of a thing?
Yeah, and there's like kind of some kind of shipwrecks is almost like how I want to explain it. Like it's like I think that there's some destruction going on here, particularly because Neptune is going to be at the end of Pisces. It's going to hit 29 degrees of Pisces, which is the final degree of the zodiac. Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune, Poseidon, god of the oceans, right? Pisces is the ocean. The 29th degree of the zodiac has so much to do with things going missing, shipwrecks, hurricanes, like big water catastrophes. But it also has themes of the like shooting down, quote unquote. So I'm like, I don't know, things in the sky being shot down to earth, or just like, again, like shipwrecks or people going missing on boats, or like a plane, like sort of Bermuda Triangle-ish, So I don't know. I think like travel we're just going to see some really bizarre stories that involve like airlines or big cruise ships or something like that.
By the way, folks, if I go down on an airline, it's all fine. Don't worry. Don't feel bad. The ships, I feel like, have been a ticking time bomb for cruise ships for a while.
Ooh, I just went on a cruise ship, my first one ever, and I felt so uneasy the entire time. I had to like really turn that off in my head so that I could try to enjoy it. But yeah, there's just such a ominous feeling, and I think the ocean is so scary. Like it's so huge and powerful.
That's my when I want to scare myself, which I don't know why I do that, but looking at sharks and underwater stuff, look up this place called the Devil's Aquarium. Holy crap. We don't know what's down there. It's the most fascinating, terrifying thing there is the ocean. And that's my biggest fear. If my plane goes down, hope that I die, that I'm not floating in the ocean. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah. No, it sort of reminds me of remember the submarine that imploded in the ocean this year. I feel like that type of event is going to be, tripled down on, I guess, next year.
And I think of the Malaysian flight that went missing that I did. Yeah. That was one of my first podcasts that everybody liked. It took like 2 weeks to put it together, but that's interesting stuff and people missing.
Yeah.
definitely this idea of people missing. It's really strange. There's also like border control issues. I think immigration will be a big theme, like much more so than it has been.
This is a
people
weird,
paying attention to it.
And as for people going missing, I have a feeling this will also be people that have been missing that we didn't know about. Like when they come out of foster care, they go, "Hey, Utica foster care." This is not didn't happen, but just like Utica foster care doesn't know where 400 children are. Like I think that type of stuff. And people can yell at me all you want, but I'm glad they made a movie about it. No matter who's in it, or even though the guy was a jerk, we need to look at child trafficking. I think that will be more apparent also. Not just that they go missing right away, but that we see how many are really missing.
I think this is solid. Like, good point again. So, and Gemini is a childlike sign. It doesn't rule children. Leo does, but it is a childlike sign. It's very commonly associated with the concept of children. And Jupiter would be multiplying the idea of children, right? But also interesting is that Jupiter this year will be making a couple squares to Saturn and Pisces. And Pisces, again, is this, it's where things go missing. So especially there are 2 Jupiter-Saturn squares, and that'll be August 19th and December 24th. So I would look for missing people stories popping up around those 2 dates.
Wow. I have to, this is maybe only just funny to me, but can't wait to tell my sister, because my mom is a Pisces with dementia. Talk about things disappearing. Holy cow.
Yeah. That's one of those kind of things where, that 29th degree of Pisces too, though, I think I had kind of maybe wrongfully predicted this in one of the previous episodes, but I still think it's on the table where Pisces does rule, like that concept of like the dissolve of memory itself and how the mind works. We really lose identity. We transcend identity at its best, but I think that there's a miraculous nature to Pisces too. So not everything is doom and gloom. Definitely the positive nature of this could be this like sudden like discovery about like a medication for Alzheimer's to help prolong our memories or something. I mean, I just saw, oh my God, I literally just saw one of my friends, I'm going to have to send you this, yesterday posted this article about how the FDA is about to approve a drug that extends a dog's life. There's something like that I think could definitely be echoed even for humans next year.
I am actually going to give you, if I understand this correctly, I'm actually going to say you did not predict about memory wrong, because I feel like we are way more forgetful now. And there's another thing going on, which is a lot of people have vertigo right now. And some people I know have gone to the hospital, and even people at the hospital like, wow, a lot of vertigo. And that is the consciousness outgrowing the body. And so I do think people are constantly telling me they're more spacey now, or they don't. You can't imagine, Ryan, like, thank God the people I work for are like, oh, we know you. Like, literally, I'm forgetting to sign contracts or send pictures or whatever. And people are like, well, no, we know you, Karen. I'm like, thank God. I can't get it together. I can't get that Capricorny side of my brain to get it together. But, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's really interesting. And like that idea of, I do think immigration and border control issues will be a collective theme next year. But individually, a lot of this is Saturn and Pisces in general. Saturn on an individual level rules the physical boundaries you have. It rules your bones, it rules your skin. And so Pisces being the transcendence of ego and consciousness itself, we're experiencing this bleed through the borders there, right? On an individual level where consciousness is moving beyond the body. That's really interesting that you said that. I also want to say one more thing that I've really been ruminating on. I'll keep this very brief, but I had this kind of epiphany, and then I did a rabbit hole research into this. I need to put it together in this longer format thing. But we have really moved away from the elementals, right? I think society has moved along very progressively lately. I mean, in the last, really since the Industrial Revolution. And elementals are the building blocks of life, right? I won't get super into that, but literally the elements of air, water, earth, fire. And one of the big connections that I made was
water is memory, right? And so this idea of memory as well being really, I think, big right now, and the loss of it, it made me think like this is like going back to Hippocrates. He created the Hippocratic Oath that doctors still take to this day, right? But he was also an astrologer, and so he correlated the four elements to different parts of the body. And I've been really playing with this idea lately, where when something off in my life in a very tangible sense, or if I'm feeling jealous, which I hate that feeling, but it's popped up for me lately, that's a very earthy energy. I'll connect that feeling of jealousy to something that's wrong in my earthly existence, meaning, am I not financially taking care of myself? Is my home a mess? My physical space a bad disaster? Am I not working out? And when I make that connection, this feeling of jealousy lifts. It's almost instantaneous. It's been the weirdest thing. So with water specifically, I looked at when did we really start developing water issues? Like we don't have water, people don't have access to clean drinking water, right? Like we're polluting the water. When did all these water issues happen? When did we start neglecting the elements of water, which we used to care about so deeply, and it literally built everything we knew until the Industrial Revolution. Go figure, when did all these water issues start happening? The Industrial Revolution. And when did Alzheimer's start picking up? Like the name Alzheimer's came around shortly after the Industrial Revolution, and the statistics related to water pollution and the decreased access to water correlate what is expected regarding like the increase of Alzheimer's. It is on the increase.
Wow.
So isn't that weird? It's like there's a correlation here that we are experiencing. Water is memory. If we keep mistreating the element of water, and forgetting about it, forgetting about its actual meaning and its purpose and this existence, we are going to forget in general, like memory is going away. It's just really fascinating to me.
Well, also, and I always tell people, program your water. When you're manifesting, program your water. That is a huge deal. And also, a lot of dementia is connected to dehydration. If you
yes,
that's a big one that people forget about, and sometimes we forget. Even at where my mom is, they're always giving them sodas and juice and tea and coffee, and it's like sometimes they just need water.
Yes. Isn't that weird? There's so much to it. I mean, it's the same with like COVID, right? The mistreatment of air, right? And then go figure, we come to this precipice in society where this airborne virus is now being spread around. Like it's been seen in so many crazy ways, just this connection to like the mistreatment of elements, and then like how we're seeing that actually play out in our lives. That's very like conceptual, and I'm trying to like work on a way of making that more grounded for people. But I just think, respect your freaking elements. Like we got to respect this earth. It's the only thing we have.
And also, Ryan, I'm going to throw a question in here real quick, and then I'm going to let you go. I think we have like 10 minutes left or whatever. I'm just going to let you roll.
Okay.
Is there another pandemic coming?
God, I hope not. I will say, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I don't think I would have had thought to say this otherwise, though. There will be a Mars and Saturn are going to make a conjunction. And this is happening. Oh God, when is this happening? Okay, it's happening on April 10th. I'll just say straight up right now to everybody, like April's probably the month to look out for. That's going to be the biggest, craziest month of the year. For sure. It's a lot happening. So April 10th, Mars conjoins Saturn in Pisces. But the last Mars-Saturn conjunction, and Mars severs, it cuts things off. Saturn is restrictions, right? The last Mars-Saturn conjunction was at the end of March in 2020. Lockdowns, stay home, sever your social life. And it was in Aquarius, 0 degrees of Aquarius, where Pluto's moving into. So there's a potential. There's a potential. But I hope not. I really don't think so. Like, that's not where I see everything going, but there is this really, really weird echo of Mars and Saturn coming back, and just what had happened last time was the lockdown. So if it's not a pandemic, I can see there being some other reason maybe that we're severing from each other,
Yeah. They keep trying to scare. There's like these little scares with this, or there's something going on in China, or people are sick in China.
Yeah.
I think part of this country is just over it, and doesn't care. Like it's really gonna have to be a killer. Like I don't think anyone cares anymore. But you know what? And you know I'm all conspiracy, Ryan. But
Right, same.
in Utica, Thanksgiving, all urgent cares closed.
Like what?
Exactly. And I didn't have to go. I was looking at something and I was like, they're all closed. And then I looked online and I was like, this is unbelievable. And so I live right down the street from a hospital and I asked them and they go, oh, we don't know anything about that. And it was like, they're combining two hospitals here in Utica, which as they were giving us the warning, COVID's coming back, which it didn't come back, but they were like, everybody's, going to be in the hospital. They were making the hospitals smaller. They moved from 2 to 1, which is now smaller. So she was like, they won't have any beds for COVID. So if one person comes in with COVID, they're going to say we're overflowing. So I can't wait for this medical system to get turned upside down or for me to meet a nice man from the UK. Because
it's happening.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're trying to make us, you can't get an appointment. We can't get appointments for my mother for anything for months. Everything is about the emergency room. And it's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. And even then you're still waiting forever if you're in like a dire.
Right.
It's just crazy. It really is crazy. And there's an exodus of these healthcare professionals, and healthcare in general is a theme. There's a lot of Taurus and Pisces energy in 2024. Both of those signs very related to healthcare. So that will be a massive industry of focus in 2024. Absolutely. And on the pandemic note, I think one of these reasons why I know that we're moving forward and why this is going to be a different year is because I do think there's been this collective shock of what has happened and a lack of processing. Like I think we try, but I really think because there's a new movement happening in 2024 that we're going to start realizing the true depth of how lockdown and the pandemic has changed so much for us, Like we can see it in little ways, like with the children in education, like what lockdown did to them and them going back to the school system. Like there are so many stories from teachers about kids acting out in much crazier ways. The isolation of senior citizens has been huge as well. Like
the teenagers not dating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. There's we see it and we're going through it, but there's been a lack of, we still don't have the data. We don't, this stuff is still being figured out. So I think next year really is this awakening from the shock of it all, and a lot of collective healing and personal healing will be taking place there. And actually to the point where there will be a healing crisis is probably the best way I could put it. And that will be really seen in the first half of 2024. Because Chiron, which rules wounding and healing, is in Aries. It's going to meet the North Node in Aries, and they're together pretty much the whole first half of 2024. But they make an exact conjunction mid-February. So I could see there being a serious collective realization that there's a major need to heal. I think healers and metaphysically and spiritually will be called into task, but I also think the healthcare angle will come into task, and mental health, it's going to be a huge thing. Rehab facilities, I think, are going to be big. That's a lot of Pisces energy at play. So just the need to heal, but also that's important. The realization of that is in and of itself important. It just is because Aries is life. So and Chiron is our wounding. So there's this faded realization about the wounding that we've received from life lately, right? But Aries is life itself. So the North Node is moving us into reclaiming life itself, which I think in and of itself is healing for us. So I do see a lot of healing potential happening next year, but I think it's directly related to the last few years because of our unprocessing of it,
Yes. And I'm going to throw in a weird note because that's what I do. That's why you listen to this podcast, because I'm always off point. So I, in this third apartment now that I'm in at the same place, there was someone that lived here a very long time and the apartment smelled, and I put raw onions and left them all over. And folks, if you have a mate who has a sinus or any sort of a virus, put a raw onion next to your bed. Cut it open. You will get used to the smell. The red ones are too strong, white ones, sweet ones. Onions clean the air and onions kill viruses. And I think start keeping notice of stuff like that, or how to make your own oregano oil, or there's these things that you can be doing now that we forget. Everything is another pill. That means you got to buy that pill the rest of your life because your stomach's always upset. Or look at the real holistic. Go look up Barbara O'Neill. Go get her book. I don't even have it yet. Get whatever that guy is trying to sell, 100 holistic recipes. Try them first. They really, really work. But everybody, the raw onion thing is a big deal. So, all right. So Ryan,
Love that.
Yes. Anything else you have to throw out to the universe?
Yes. Let me just say it really quick. I know we're running out of time, but I will be very, very brief on this, I promise. There is a big Jupiter and Uranus conjunction in Taurus happening April 20th. That will be active like a month before, a month after, peaks April 20th. This is a really big deal. They only meet up like once every about 15 years, but this is the only time in our lifetime that they will meet up in Taurus. And that is kind of really capping off April. Huge, huge, huge month in April. And while I think this is very exciting in many ways, like a lot of people are going to be breaking old molds, old routines, and like coming into a like epiphanies and really just like kind of that idea of quantum leaping into like a new part of their life at that point, for sure. But it's also on a collective end going to very much be a major disruption and or upheaval of agricultural, environmental, healthcare, and oh God, what was the other one? Oh, financial systems. So I really think that we're going to see those themes hugely disrupted toward the end of April. I am, I used to be much more into the cryptocurrency, like tracking of things, but I actually think that April is going to start, like the spring and summer are going to be like a bit of a resurgence for crypto. It's just a big feeling that I have. So if anybody's interested in that, I think that we're going to see that we're at a breaking point regarding our financial systems and the need for very serious revolution there. And then the only other thing, I mean, there's a lot, of course, that I would say, but and the overall flow of the year is like lots of wild changing energy first half. Summer is actually pretty chill. Really looking forward to June. Enjoy June, everybody. Like plan for June. June's nice. Okay. Thank God, because it's Gemini season. I'm a Gemini. But then fall and winter gets really eclipsy and Mars retrograde and political and revolutionary. So there's a little bit more of an inspired energy, but still some like weird things happening. A lot of the huge shifts are in the first half of the year. So we're adjusting to that stuff. We're seeing a little bit more of where it goes in the second half of the year. Okay. And it's still going to be some changes, big changes, but like, I definitely think it's going to be a wild election. Truly. And I've even seen some astrologers say like, if there's an election at all, which I don't feel comfortable because making that big of a prediction, but it is a wild election for sure. And I think that's kind of just a big thing to look out for. Is like Mars isn't going to go actually retrograde until the very end of the year, but there's a big pre-retrograde period where those themes are heating up, and that's heating up at the election. The end of the year feels incredibly political, but this really is a year of change, not knowing where it's going. And then I think that's why I just think like the active participation in it, and just like if all you can really do is just try to let yourself imagine a better future for yourself, that's amazing enough. It's pushing that consciousness forward into spaces that it should be in, right? Mm-hmm. And then gear up, because the end of 2024, I'd say it's like August 2024 through to July of November 2024 to July 2025. That is going to be the biggest hotspot because all of the major planets are shifting into new parts of the zodiac. Wow. Pluto finally re-enters Aquarius again. It's going to dip back into Capricorn at the end of the year. But November, it moves back into Aquarius for freaking good for 20 years. Neptune's going to go into Aries. Uranus enters Gemini. Jupiter enters Cancer. Saturn enters Aries. There's this total reset at the very beginning of the zodiac where Saturn and Neptune are currently they're going to be the very, very, very end of Pisces, the very end of the zodiac. And then they move into the Aries, 0 degrees of Aries, the start of the whole zodiac. This is a completely huge reset as far as how we live, human consciousness, humanity itself is concerned.
Wow.
And so this, like, hang in there until November, because there's going to be a lot of change and you don't know where it's going necessarily. You will definitely see where it's going November 2024 to July 2025.
So August of my birthday, everything starts to shift, but we will hear from you again, Ryan, in June, correct? 6 months?
Yes, please. Especially because there's a lot going on that second half of the year, especially on a political end. I think that's going to be a much more like exciting and like current event-y type of podcast that we do. So yeah, there's a lot I didn't touch on in that second half of the year. So, but the first half of the year is what's most important right now.
Right now, yes. And Ryan, I have to say, I met you through your ex, and he was like, "Oh, Ryan's just he's starting to do astrology. I think he's really good. You are great. I watch your TikToks. Everyone follow Ryan on TikTok. And you're like me. I end up doing celebrity stuff sometimes, but I don't want to. But the one you did on Matt Rife was so interesting. And I really feel like it shows, and you weren't like being a jerk. You were just showing how you do astrology. And it showed how great you were. I was watching it because I don't care about Matt Rife either, but I was like, man, Ryan is amazing. So Ryan's Astrology is your website, and they can get your business calendar from there.
Absolutely. Everything you need, all socials, my podcast, my business astrology calendar, everything. The website, ryansastrology.com.
And follow Ryan on TikTok. It makes me so happy when your face comes up on my thing.
Aw, thank you.
So thank you so much, Ryan. And anything else you want to throw in, or did I forget any websites or anything, or all good?
Nah, we are set. I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you for having me again.
All right, my brilliant friend. Until next time. And everybody, we will see you next week. Next week is a big interview, a big deal. And I'm going to reinforce, I put a little trigger warning in the beginning. I think I covered it throughout. It was a mind-blowing podcast with someone from MK Ultra, a real victim of MK Ultra. No ads next week, no edit. Get your whatever you need comfortable for trigger warnings or whatever. I do not edit my podcast, or I try not to, so that you get the full picture of my guests. So we will see you next week, and hopefully join the Patreon. Come learn how to do tarot and stuff. Have a great week, everybody. Paranormal Karen. She's a spooky kind of queen. Paranormal Karen.